Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, everyone. So good to have you and to be listening to this conversation today, because no matter whether you're internal or external, it doesn't matter. There's going to be something in this conversation for you, I know. And I'm excited to have Nikki Rausch on with me again today. And this is not the first time. She was on what seemed to be just yesterday, but it was a couple years ago. She is the CEO of Sales Maven, and she has the unique ability to transform the misunderstood process of selling. And with over 25 years of selling experience, entrepreneurs and small business owners, they hire Nikki to show them how to sell successfully and authentically. I think that's her word, authentic. So we want to hear what that looks like in today's world. And she's written 3 books, all available on Amazon. She has a podcast called The Sales Maven, and you can find her on your favorite podcast platform. So Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure that we talked about authentic selling last time you were on. And so, maybe we'll kind of start there. We are in the world of AI and technology, personalization. What does authenticity look like today?
It looks like remembering that people buy from people, or people want to work with a person, right? Like it's totally fine to use AI. I love it. I use it all the time in my business too. And yet there is a disconnect because remember, like AI has basically just been trained on all the other stuff that's already out there, right? So it's just essentially regurgitating a lot of the things that have already been said and the things that have already been done. And so,
Just like half of us anyway, though.
right. But yeah, but there is something about feeling like you're talking to a person who sees you as a person. There is a real disconnect, I think, right now with this idea of, well, I'm just going to have AI write all of my messages because it does a better job than me. Well, okay, except for your message now sounds like everybody else's message that's been written by AI. So unless you're really, I think, advanced with your AI skills and getting it to learn how to use your style. And even, I have clients now say to me, like, oh, I just ask it to write like Nikki. And then they show me the message, and I'm like, that's not at all what I would have advised you to send. It's missing the personal touch, it's missing the conversational tone to the message. So, yeah, so this idea of authenticity, if everything is just AI and you're missing you in it, like that's not going to sustain you, your position, or your business for very long, because at that point you're just replaceable.
Yeah, it's such a fine line, because sometimes it does say it better and you can use parts of it. But I found that anytime I had it write something for me, and I use it all the time as well, and I've tweaked it and gotten it to find my style, but there's still something that needs to be edited so that I feel like it reflects me. And if I don't,
Yeah.
then like I just leave with this feeling of, okay, it's just not really me. And I want it to feel like me. But there are a lot of people who are just letting it go as is, right? So, do you think that that is creating, like, we already live in a skeptical world where people, as soon as they see an M dash or whatever, they're like, oh, that was written by,
Yeah.
ChatGPT. That's not authentic. So, do you feel like it's going to create more skepticism in people and more reservation in their interactions? Like, how do you think that that's going to affect people?
Yeah, I think it'll, like, we'll find the yin and the yang. We'll find the good and the bad here, where there are certain places where you don't care that it's AI, like you're just trying to get something done. But then there's other things where you want the nuance. You want to be able to talk something out with somebody that you're engaging with in some way, whether it's, in sales for me, like wanting to know that you're spending your money with somebody who's a real person and that you're actually getting their expertise, not AI's version of your expertise, because it's not the same. So I think it is going to depend on what's on the line here. But when big decisions are on the line, or when it's something that feels personal, it's your business, it's your livelihood, it's your home life, it's the things that really matter to you, then people are going to start saying, like, this isn't good enough. Like, I don't want to just talk to some fake version of a person. I actually want to talk to a person so there can be some nuance, some real conversation back and forth where I'm getting a sense that you understand where I'm coming from and why this is important to me, and not just treating me like I always say in sales. Like, if you treat people like they're just a big wallet walking around or a big dollar sign on their head, like they're not going to want to work with you or buy from you. And that is the piece that the human side needs to bring in. I think thinking about your business, where can you use AI and use all of these advances in technology to your benefit to deliver a really phenomenal result for a client? But then my NLP teacher used to always say, the higher tech it is, the more high touch there needs to be involved. So where can
So what
you
does that
bring
mean?
so where can you bring you into it? Where does it feel like you're a part of it? Where is there a live conversation, or maybe there's you actually sending a real message where you're speaking like a real person and it's you speaking on the message, welcoming a new client into your organization, or a personalized note that doesn't feel like, oh, that was just written by AI. I can just delete it or ignore it because it actually really came from Nikki. And that feels like it came from Nikki. Because there are phrases that I use that AI doesn't understand the phrase, right? Or why it would be used there.
Well, I
Some of
think
it.
that's the key is why it would be used there, right?
Mhm.
Is it may not get the creative context
Yeah.
because you can feed it what your key statements are and things like that. The telltale sign is when they're used in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
then it makes sense to us as like a person, like, oh, it would make sense that Nikki would say, like super random. Now I all start saying this, but like one thing my clients always laugh at me for is because I always say, like, when I'm essentially saying somebody to get lost, I always say, like, go kick rocks, right? Like that wouldn't probably be something that AI would like come up with on its own. But yet, if you know me, you know that's something that I say and you
Right.
understand why I'm saying it.
Right. So, so is there like, do you have a rule of thumb of yes in these types of places and no in these types of places? Like you gave a great example when someone's joining the organization, like that would be a time to be more personal. Do you have some
Mhm.
other examples like that that can give people a guide of what you've experienced and feel is
Well, okay. So here's one is that AI makes stuff up and it makes up great stuff. It makes up great testimonials. It makes up great stories, but those aren't true. So if that's another place where I would say be really careful about letting it craft stories for you, because the thing about story is it's the language of the brain. It's super powerful. But there's nothing worse than finding out that the story that you were just really engaged in is just baloney. It's all made up. I had somebody do this not too long ago where they were telling a story and using it as a teaching story. And about halfway through the story, they said, oh, by the way, this person doesn't exist. I made him up. And I was like, well, I'm so far out of the story now. So
mm,
be really careful about your stories, your testimonials, and things like that. Because, the other thing is like you can have AI write like really strong sounding testimonials for you. But then when you're trying to use that for data of like, what are the phrases that my clients use when they're talking about the benefit that they get out of working with me, like you won't actually have any of that anymore because it
well,
won't
and oh, but
work.
that's an ethical issue of it making
It
up.
is.
To me, that is totally a place where you absolutely cannot use AI. Is you have to take what your clients actually said, because if I were to find out that any testimonial online of somebody I was looking up was false. Like I didn't even think that somebody would do that. And so you
Oh,
just opened
yeah.
up my eyes to be like, and that's why I said people are going to be so skeptical because it's like, what's real and what's not. I feel that I'm starting to get like that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and like you said, there's the good with the bad, but, that's something that we're going to have to work towards is understanding that we may need to be writing for, talking to that skeptic and understanding that they're coming from that place. Maybe you have some sort of NLP, ninja tricks to help us to find that rapport quickly through that authentic connection when
Well, one
somebody
of
is
the
skeptical.
Yeah, I think one of the ways is to allow people, one is for you to ask questions. So this kind of goes back to my whole philosophy around sales too, is that questions are so powerful. And oftentimes we don't think when we're selling something, when we're communicating with people, we talk at them because we're so used to being talked at that we
Mhm.
forget that we actually want to talk with people. So we need to ask questions. Now, one of the things that you also want to think about is, are you giving people the opportunity to ask you questions? So this is bringing a lot of NLP in here too, but that creates real conversation. Because think about, is there anything worse than going to coffee with somebody and just having them talk at you the whole time and then you leave and you're like, they never asked me one question and I asked them one question and they spoke for 45 minutes. Like, did I even need to be at that? Like, I felt like I was just like, they could have just pressed play and I could have just listened to them like essentially word vomit all over me. So the thing
I
about
had a
conversation,
salesperson do that with me once,
yeah,
and I have to say, like, that is such a turnoff. Like, they never asked me what my issue was. Like, I think it's a really good point. Don't assume that you know what the person's challenge is, or, hear it in their words, because then you can use their words back. So that shows that you're understanding, that you heard them. And I was totally turned off and would never work with someone like that who just didn't engage in a conversation. It was the one-way conversation.
well, and also, like, I would hope too that they give you, as a salesperson, they should also give you the opportunity to ask them questions,
Hmm.
right? Like, because it isn't just about them finding out about you. You need to get your questions answered in order to make a decision to say yes or no to whatever it is that they're selling.
How do you
So,
open someone up to ask questions? Because, sometimes people don't want to ask. Like you say, do you have any questions? It's kind of like, same thing for me as a public speaker, right? I'm on stage, I'm talking, and then, and we have a Q&A. What questions do you have? And, until the ice is broken or whatever, is there a good way for a salesperson to make it easier to ask questions or to
yeah,
get that
so
first question going?
I'm going to give you two answers. So one, if you're in a one-on-one conversation, here's one of my favorite kind of non-context specific question is you could say, how are we doing so far? So when you say, how are we doing so far? There's no context to it. So the person will add their own context and that will give you an indicator of like, what are they thinking about and what's important to them in this moment? Like, what have we not covered yet? Or are they thinking about how much time we have left? Or are they thinking like, where are we going in this conversation? So it'll help you redirect the conversation. So, how are we doing so far? Kind of a follow up to that is also instead of saying, do you have any questions? You say this. So, what questions come to mind so far?
Oh my.
What questions come to mind so far? The reason it's that is because our brains are like Google. And when you ask a question like that, our brains want to try to come up with an answer. There's something called, I think it's called a distinctive elaboration, instinct. I can't remember, but it's our brains are wired for questions. It wants to
Mhm.
answer. And even if it doesn't answer out loud, it tries to give you a question. So when you say, what questions come to mind so far? Their brain starts searching like, what questions do I have? Whereas if you say, do you have questions? They say yes or no. That doesn't
Mhm.
spur the conversation. Now on stage as a presenter, as a speaker, the way that you would say this is now, who has the first question?
Oh.
Because that
That's a
implies,
good one. I
thank you.
like that.
Thank you so much.
Presupposing that there's a second and third question.
Yeah. Yeah. It implies that there's going to be more than one and that it's okay to be the person to ask the first question because there's other questions behind it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Great one. Wow. I don't even know what to ask after that now that I'm okay. So let's
I'm
do
glad
this.
I gave you something you liked.
I want to go into sort of like a quick lightning round, but
Okay.
before I do that, what didn't I ask you that you feel like you wanted to share in this conversation today?
I guess the only thing that, well, this might take us in a different path, but
It's
one
okay.
of the things that we were talking about is this idea of like using AI to write for you. And there are some phrases that I teach my clients to let go of that are very, again, it's not common. It's probably not even grammatically correct. So for those people who are like grammar people, like, sorry, but it is a way to try to like turn the conversation in a direction that is more, I think, impactful. So one is that, like in marketing, they love if statements. I always say, like, get rid of the if statements and use when statements, because you can actually almost always replace when. Like if you just get rid of if, put when in there and see if that actually gets their brain thinking about like, when was the last time this happened, or when are you ready to do blah blah blah, not like if you're ready do this. So that's something that comes to mind, is like, how
Hmm.
can you tweak some of your language again so you don't just sound like everybody else, not even just everybody else but all AI too. Like it
Hmm.
definitely doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. No, definitely. That makes sense. Well, and those are action, right? And if is a presupposition that you're not sure they're going to do it. And
Yeah.
when says you're going to do it, it's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are also good leading type of questions to put
Hmm.
people in that state of mind.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. All right. Well, let's start and do some of the lightning round.
Okay.
So, what is an AI tool that you use the most?
Well, it's probably ChatGPT.
Okay. And what's a tool that you want to use that haven't started using it, but you've heard about it and it sounds pretty cool?
Let's think about that. I guess, I mean, there's a bunch that come to mind. Like I've never used Sora, or I think they have a new version of it out. Like I haven't used that at all, but it is something that I think like, maybe I could
And
play with
what does
that.
Sora do for the people who are listening?
I think what it does is it's like animated video. Like you can give it a picture and it can animate from there. That's how I understand it. I'm not using it yet. So
Okay, cool. My coolest one that I just learned how to use is Suno. It writes songs for you.
love it.
Yeah, I just thought it was fun. Did one for my
Yeah.
son for his birthday.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
just playing around. Okay, so what is one word that you would describe sales presence in this digital first world?
Okay. This is a word that comes to mind for a lot of things right now.
Sure.
I'm going to say generous.
Generous. Oh, I like that. I love that. See, I would have thought you would have said authentic.
Yeah, no,
But I think
I think
generous,
coming from
let's
a
talk about
generous
that for a
place.
minute. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute because I think that is, how do I want to say, extremely human,
Mhm,
right? And yeah, and just that kind and giving and yeah, just
mhm.
human, right? And that is such a great word. What was behind that for you when you said in various different ways? Because I think that is a really good thing to talk about.
I was actually having a conversation earlier today with somebody and they asked me like, how do you define wealth? And I was like, generous. Like this is what really comes to mind right now for me, is this idea of being generous. And what does it mean to be generous? To me, there is real kindness behind generosity. And I think you can be, I mean, this is something I'm striving for. Be generous with your time, be generous with
Mhm.
your expertise, be generous with your money. Just be generous. Be generous in giving people grace for making mistakes. Just
Mm.
be generous. And I just think we need more generosity, frankly, in the world. But I do think
Yeah.
around sales, there is something really special to be in a conversation with somebody who wants to earn your business and is showing up from a very generous. So
Mm.
I love the word genuine. I love the word authentic, but there is something about somebody who's willing to be generous.
Yeah, that really struck a chord with me, much
Oh,
more
good.
than the other words, because it comes from gratitude, I
Yeah.
believe.
Hmm.
And so, genuine and all of those are good, but it doesn't come from that root. And so I think that's amazing. I'm going to be taking that with me.
Good.
So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite metaphor that you use when you're talking about connection in a sales conversation?
This feels like a story, but I always compare this idea of people get worried about rejection and they hold themselves back because of rejection, right? Like they're going to reject me if they say no. And the description or the kind of story that I always tell is imagine going out and having a really satisfying meal. And at the end of the meal, the wait person comes by and offers to show you the dessert menu. And you think to yourself, well, I really like dessert, but I'm so full because I had such a beautiful, satisfying meal. And you say, no, thank you. Or just the check or whatever it is that you say.
Mm-hmm.
The person doesn't go in the back and say to the, people in the kitchen or the dishwashers, like, can you believe that broad? I offered her dessert and she rejected me. And it's like, the thing about sales is a no isn't rejection. It's just information. So
Right.
yeah, don't take it personal, but also don't be afraid of like offering,
Uh-huh.
offer the
Yeah.
offer the dessert menu and let them decide and be okay with it.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. I love it. And since the show is called Time to Reset, right? Thinking about resetting our mindset to think differently, to recharge, to reprioritize, and sometimes to let go of things from the past and whatnot. So, what's something that you recently let go of?
Oh boy. One of the things I recently let go of, it's probably this idea of thinking that there needs to be a certain type of way somebody comes in to work with me for it to make sense for
Mm.
them. I'm letting all of that stuff go and saying it's really what they need and it isn't about what I think they need. I'm here to just to be generous truly and to
Mhm.
serve. So whatever that looks like and I'm willing to offer people opportunities to kind of dip their toe in the water with me that I've never been willing to do before. Just because we'll see what comes from it. If
Right.
it helps them, that's what I'm here to do. And if that's all they need and that's it, great. And those that are like, not only did I need that, but I need more, awesome.
Great. And so, with that, we're at the top of our time together. So, how can people reach you and find out more information about what you're up to?
Well, I always like to wrap it around a gift for your audience, if that's
Speaking
okay.
of generosity.
Yeah, right. I'd like to gift your audience actually a training around questions because in sales, I
Mm.
truly believe that questions are the differentiator. And I teach that there are two types of questions the right fit questions for you to help identify if you're talking to an ideal client, and your expertise questions that set you apart from your competition and plant the seed in the mind of the buyer that you're the right person for them to hire. So I have a training on it. It's called Seal the Deal Questions That Close Sales. And I would love to just gift it to your audience. It is a paid training, but I will gift it to your audience. And
Wow.
you can get it by going to yoursalesmaven.com/reset.
All right. That'll be in the show notes for everybody. So that's yoursalesmaven.com/reset.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all. There were a lot of really powerful nuggets here. So I hope you wrote them down. And I hope after this that when you sit down to reflect on this podcast, that you are going to take a look at your language and your questions, some of the things that were talked about today, and how you can implement that into your life, whether it's with your team or with your family, right? Questions and language goes across all different parts of our lives. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Time to Reset. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.